Hey, first timers, welcome back to our limited sub-series, First Time Being an Expat, kind of. My husband Matt and I are breaking down another week in the Netherlands, comparing it to life in the States, and today we are talking about the dumpster fire of an Airbnb we initially moved into when we moved from Hilversum to Amsterdam, and we also go through an extensive pros and cons list we decided to anxiety write over the weekend. So we thought it'd be cool to do one now, about a month into this experience, and then do another pros cons list at the end of our trip and compare them to each other. So if you have any pros and cons that we haven't thought of that pertain to moving abroad, please share them with us in the comments on YouTube or DM us on Instagram so we can discuss those with each other and maybe even on the next episode. You can find me on Instagram at DannyOfficial, DAANI Official, and Matt at Wigtronic, WIGTRONIC, or at Cassette Cycling, like cassette tape and then cycling. So thank you guys for hanging out with us as we chronicle our time in the Netherlands, and here we go. I'm ready. Women's health is extremely important to me, and I think modern fertility is one of the most exciting, accessible new advancements to come out in recent years to help us really understand our bodies more. Whether you're ready to pop out a mini-me like yesterday, or the thought of being someone's parent after the night you had last night seems light years away, knowledge is power. Understanding how our bodies work to better be able to prepare for the future and take better care of ourselves right now is game-changing. Modern fertility doesn't just offer fertility testing. It also offers birth control, prenatal vitamins, ovulation and pregnancy tests, and just launched a sperm kit. Because fertility isn't just a woman's job, okay? So click the link in the show notes for $10 off your modern fertility hormone test and join the thousands of women who refuse to let fertility be a mystery. Now, back to the show. All right, episode 3. Cheers. Here we go. And of course, Tux decides that this is the most opportune time to chew on his bone. Just for the YouTubers watching. Enjoy this.
I would say that some people probably find this as ASMR, right?
Yeah, maybe it's ASMR for you. So
this
so enjoy it. Matt gets so grossed out by this.
It's so gross. It kills me. Oh gosh.
All right. So it's been a few weeks since our last check-in, and lots has happened. Why did that sound weird?
A lot has happened.
A lot has happened. Where should we start?
We can start with the massive fail that was our last Airbnb. Epic fail.
Truly. Okay, so I found this Airbnb and it looked very cute. Most importantly, the location looked amazing. So basically every month we've been switching Airbnbs so that we're experiencing different parts of the Netherlands / Amsterdam. So we can get an idea of what different neighborhoods feel like and just really soak it all in, try different things, have different experiences. And so this apartment, the location was amazing. And it's like very close to city center. You step out your door, there's immediately things to do. And, we haven't lived like that in a long time, since New York, really. So we were like, let's dip our toe into that and see what that's like. So we show up and it's so much smaller than the pictures made it seem. And it's basically one room that has like both of our workspaces, over like a dining table that can seat 12 people, but you will never get 12 people in this place. A very uncomfortable couch, like no rugs, just like tile floor. It's very cold feeling. The whole place feels very dingy.
It was also literally cold. Like the thermostat, we couldn't adjust the heat.
It was broken.
It was
like
broken,
you couldn't turn it on, off, nothing. Like
So it was actually figuratively and literally cold.
But yeah, nothing underneath your feet to keep the like ground coldness from coming up. And then there was a skylight in the pictures on Airbnb in the bedroom. And because it's like ground floor, that's the only window in that room. and you go in, and again, it's like the whole place has not been painted in years, and there's a towel
A moldy, wet
like
towel,
on the outside of the skylight.
which I
Like
don't even know how the towel got there. I'm like, how did they get? I,
did they do it? Did a neighbor do it?
yeah.
Like drying their laundry? Did someone want privacy? I don't really know because it's like,
Speaking of privacy, let's talk about the bathroom.
yeah, okay, we'll go right to the bathroom. So basically, you have to climb a ladder to get to the bathroom. And when I say ladder, I mean like these Amsterdam stairs. They just are getting steeper and steeper somehow. I'm not really sure.
And the ceiling height in the bathroom was, I think, right. I'm 6'4", and it was maybe 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah. So
Because
you can,
I was walking around the bathroom like this. Now I've been in bathrooms like this in Europe before. Usually it's the shower that is, you just are squeezed in there. It's just, this is just the way it is. I totally was expecting something like that. What I didn't expect was the shower was like in the bath, and the curtain didn't really hold any of the water
yeah.
in, and so there just was water getting everywhere, and there was windows right next to the bathtub and the shower, and a couple of these panes were missing the like
The
laminate.
privacy like frosted screening that you can put on the glass. So you could just look out and your neighbors are getting like a full
Full
show.
show. And then like, because there's water going everywhere, and there's this tiny little fan that is on while you're taking a shower but is really not doing anything, all this mold is
Just
covering.
around the entire like black mold around the entire
Yeah.
like edge of the ceiling, that then because the shower curtain wasn't keeping water in was going down through the floor into the ceiling of the bedroom underneath. And so
I would call it a master bedroom, but I think that's a far cry from anything
it's
masterful.
a place with a bed in it, we'll call it that.
It felt like a New York closet
And it
apartment.
also had a sink in there, but no toilet. I'm not sure why there was just a random sink. Maybe other Europeans can answer this question for us. So if you know why, please let us know in the comments, because inquisitive minds would like to know. But yeah, so that basically became a no-go for us, and we were like, we can't stay here. I have an autoimmune disease that I've probably talked about in previous episodes, and I've spent a lot of this year paying a lot of money, thank you American healthcare system, to reverse a lot of the bad parts of that autoimmune disease. And mold is something that is like a huge trigger for, or can be a big trigger for autoimmune diseases. And I was like, hell no, there is no way that I just spent most of this year working so hard on my health to have to spend the next like 30 days in a moldy place. So we started a very respectful conversation with the Airbnb host. So far, it's remained respectful. We're working out an agreement to get a partial refund. Hopefully they come through on that. But it was a dark few days.
That was the Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, Matt was really struggling because in addition, it's fall in the Netherlands and it's really rainy and cloudy. And again, like I don't really struggle with that, but Matt really struggles. But I think that combined with the energy of this place and just how tiny it was, how dirty it was. I mean, like I was like cleaning some stuff out and like cigarettes were falling on my head from like the cabinet.
I mean, we've stayed in a lot of Airbnbs, and I would say this is probably one of the
This
worst.
is probably one of the worst for sure. I mean,
Not the
they
worst.
they advertised that they had an oven, and I was looking and I was like, "Where is the oven?" And I was texting with the host, and they're like, "Oh, it's under the counter.
It's like a
It's the
microwave.
microwave oven combo." And I was like, "No."
Also, all of the functionality, like or I should say, lack of functionality, like the doors. There was like a radiator. Obviously, we said earlier that the heat wasn't working, so there's like this radiator sitting in the bedroom, but the door would open and it would hit the radiator, so you wouldn't be able to open the door all the way, so you could then get to the closet, or the left side of the bed, and then the outlets are in just strange places, and which I think is understandable considering just how old these buildings are.
Yeah.
So the electrical is just going to be what it's going to be, but it just added to the frustration because you're like, of course, I have to set up my workstation in this part of the apartment because the outlets are like only right here, and if there's some elsewhere, they're like, 7 feet up, like right near the ceiling or some strange place like
And
that.
also the place where Matt was working at was the dining room table, and it was like an old rickety table. And so every time he's trying to program tracks, the whole table is like
Shaking.
shaking and you're like chasing after your equipment trying to do this.
It's
Also,
not a
there
good.
was like no lighting in the place, so you're cooking and you're like, I don't know what's going in here. I don't know what I'm using, but hopefully it
But
turns out okay.
the location was great.
Location was awesome. It
It's
was
amazing.
really, really good. So it was unfortunate that the rest of it was such a shithole. But we ended up finding this place, and I think we were able to get a deal. I'm going to put that in major quotes because, again, like we mentioned in the last episode, cost of housing has been astronomical for us here because we're not signing a traditional lease. We're here to do this trial run to see if we want to move here. So we're only here for 3 months. So we're basically paying an Airbnb fee, like nightly fee, but for an entire month. And you get a little bit of a break for that through Airbnb. Anyway, we got a deal on this spot because I think it was a newer place, but this is so much better. It's like kind of a loft, and we're in like this sunken down kind of living room right now. And you go up maybe 4 or 5 stairs to a kitchen dining. You go up another maybe 8 stairs to a lofted sleeping area and bathroom and washer dryer. So
It's a cool place. It's southeast of the
mhm.
city center, but you could walk that. It'd probably be like what, a 25-30 minute walk to the city center from here.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely everything. The city isn't that big, so everything is walkable. Definitely, you can get a tram ride. I got a bike this week, and you can get anywhere in like 10 or 15 minutes, or so far that I've seen.
I would say from what I've experienced, because we were on the tram the other day, which is this they have a subway here, which I actually didn't even realize.
We haven't used that yet.
I haven't used the subway, but we've used the tram, and it's very convenient because you just hop on, hop off, and you pay with your debit card.
Yeah, you just scan it when you get on, and then scan it at the stop you want to get off, and you get charged for
Yeah.
whatever that ride was.
It's a little like slower than I would imagine the subway to be. But it's just convenient because you're not having to like go up and down stairs. And but that all said, if you take that and like the walking aspect or doing Ubers, I actually think that taking like using your bike in the city is 100% the way to go. Getting anywhere, it's going to be the fastest. And as we said in the previous episodes, the infrastructure in the city is just set up for bikes. So that is like the number one easiest way to get around, I
For
think.
sure. For sure. Yeah. And I bought a bike because it's around €10 a day to rent a bike here. So to do that for 2 months would be like €600. So I bought a bike on Facebook Marketplace for €165, and the guy delivered it to me. So if you're coming to Amsterdam, that's definitely an option. If you're looking to get a bike temporarily,
And you
and
can
then
sell back, right?
yeah, you can sell it back. You can sell it back to a bike shop if you get it from a bike shop. Obviously, they're not going to pay you what you paid for it, but make a little bit of money back, or you can sell it on Facebook Marketplace. There's also another website called I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but Marktplace. That's like Facebook Marketplace, but its own thing. And I guess a lot of people use that to buy and sell bikes, furniture, whatever. But yeah, I just got mine through Facebook Marketplace, and it's been totally cool. The only issue is like it won't stay in third gear. If I go over a bump, it will switch out, and then I'll immediately go into first. So I look like an asshole, like spinning really quickly.
I need to take a look at that for you.
Yeah. So
I'm forgetting.
we'll get that fixed. But the guy also who I bought it from, he has a 2 week warranty on the bikes that you get from him. So I could also just message him and see if he can fix it. But yeah, it has been the most efficient way to get around, especially if you're going like a distance that's maybe just a little too far to walk. But yeah, I've really enjoyed the bikes. But we did yesterday, Matt and I sat down and we were like, okay, let's do a pros and cons list, like our first pros and cons list, and then we'll do it again right before we leave, just to kind of check and see if any of those pros or cons have shifted, or if we are adding or subtracting to that list. So we thought we would go over that with you guys if you want. I feel like I should insert
Dun,
kind of
dun,
like
dun, dun, dun,
game show music here or something.
dun, dun, dun.
Okay. So, pros first. Keep it positive. It's beautiful. It's safe.
It's definitely like
ish.
I feel I didn't I being a tall white male, I don't think I'm ever thinking about safety. It's like a very privileged place to come
It
from.
is for sure.
Yeah,
We've had many talks about
we
this.
have, but I am constantly thinking about this since we've been here, of just in general, not just the city of Amsterdam, but the entire country. Like well, like where we've been to, like some of these tiny towns, and Hilversum, where we were last month. It's just this overwhelming feeling of feeling safe. You see these little kids out doing their thing. You see teenagers like on their bikes, like going to wherever they're going. There's an autonomous
Yeah, I was saying to
vibe.
Matt today, we got brunch and it was very cute. It was a bunch of like 14, 15-year-old girls all up to brunch on their own and like no parents in sight. And I was like, it's so nice to think that you could live in a place where you could just send out your teenage girl into the world and not have to worry about, within reason, have to worry about something happening to her, and that she has this sense of autonomy to be able to go and do those things, or I've seen kids as young as like 10, 12 riding their bikes alone around Amsterdam. And yeah, I think, and of course, like there is danger everywhere, and you always have to have your head on some kind of swivel. And I think just like having spent so much time in New York, that will never leave me, just that awareness of my surroundings. But at the same time, I think just knowing that like there's no guns. This is something Matt and I talk about a lot. It's like every time I rarely go to large public outings in the States anymore. And if I do, or if I even go to the grocery store, I am immediately clocking everyone around me to see if I'm in the South. You can open carry. So I'm like, do I want to be next to someone who just has a gun on their person? Or see if somebody looks crazy and if I should distance myself from them. Or, we went to the movies and there was this guy who was by himself who kept switching seats, and then he left the theater altogether. And I was like, that's shady as hell. Like my spidey senses went up, and like I just went over to the seat he was at to like check around it to see if he had left a weapon. It's like that's no way to live. And maybe this is me, maybe I'm being neurotic about this, but I just feel like so much has happened in our country that how are you not neurotic? I already know multiple people who have been involved in mass shootings, who know people who've been in mass shootings. It becomes exhausting. So to be able to be in a place where you're like, okay, like you could get stabbed and you could die from a stabbing, but the likelihood of someone showing up with an AR-15 in the Netherlands is going to be significantly lower
Very
than the United States.
for sure.
So there's that. Healthcare. We've been talking to a few different people about this, and you still are paying for healthcare here, but the cost is significantly less. So on average, it's something, and again, like correct me if I'm wrong if you live in the Netherlands, and I'm sure you have like more info if you've been here longer than we have. Feel free to share this with us and with everybody in the comments. But on average, you're spending around 130 euro per person per month. And then you may be eligible to get credits from the government to have it be even less than that. So a buddy of ours,
Depending on your salary, like
depending on your salary. And so a buddy of ours says that he pays around like 90 something euro per month. And then you do have an out of pocket cost, but that out of pocket cost is what?
Well, from the website that I was on the other day, which I think is the website that everyone here uses, there's like all these different packages, but
Do you remember the name of the website?
I will give you the link so you
Okay,
can
I'll put it in
hop
the
yeah.
in the comments
Yeah,
or in the show
this
notes.
is where once you get there's I think it's like some form of ID card here. It's like a driver's license, but it's like some number, like almost like a social security number. When you get your resident status here, you then get access to the site, and then because you have to have health insurance, it's a requirement. And you'll pay the 130 euro roughly a month. And then the deductible will never exceed, I believe it's 885 euros. That's for the most expensive, like the highest end plan, which is
Do you
incredible.
want to know what ours is? 2,500 per person or $5,000 as a family. Like, I, I, I can't. I can't. And that's, by the way, that's a great deal. And we pay $550 a month for our insurance plan. And that is shared by Matt's job. It would be twice that if
If they
Matt's
weren't
job
contributing, yeah.
weren't contributing 50%. So we would be paying $1,100 a month for the two of us for health insurance with either $2,500 deductible each or 5,000 deductible as a family. So to think about only spending 260 euro per month with max 880 euro deductible annually, then that's max. Again, that's like the highest end like private plan that you can
Yeah.
that you can get.
I think what I love about this setup though is it's just so simple. Everything you're like checking boxes like I want this, I don't want that, you know. There's this like extra care type stuff that you can get. There's like the specialist that you'll inevitably end up seeing.
And
And
all of your records are uploaded into the system too, right? So any healthcare provider can access that.
exactly.
Whereas, like, if I change breast specialist, for example, I had to call my breast specialist in Nashville. They had to make a physical CD of all of my previous imaging, snail mail it to me in Los Angeles. I had to courier that to Cedar Sinai. They had to upload that into their system, give it back to me, and God forbid I lose it and have to go through that
Didn't you have
process
to
all over
fax something
again.
at one point?
And then I was asked to fax information. I was like, well, this is 2023.
Yeah.
What are we doing? And so the fact that any doctor in the whole country can just access your records and you don't have to go through this whole rigmarole of like faxing people, getting physical copies of things, it just doesn't make sense.
When we were
The efficiency is just, it does it for me.
when we arrived here, our cab driver was saying, because we were kind of picking his brain about like
Yeah.
life here. I think he said he was from Turkey and he'd been living here for like 20 years, and he was saying that the system that's in place works very well. He said that the politics come and go. Like there's the hyper conservative and far left liberals and like everything in between, or whatever their version of that is here. But I think it's really difficult for them to change. If I'm understanding the way that government works here, it's very difficult for them to change these systems that have been in place for so long. So if anything, everything is very efficient and built very well, and it's not in danger of changing anytime
And
soon.
again, by the way, like, just caveat, we're learning all of this stuff in real time. We could be completely incorrect in what we're relaying. We're just relaying to you what our experience has been, the conversations we've had so far. I'm sure that as we go, things will be proven or disproven too. But these are just conversations that we've had with people, and some of the things that we've like just started to dip our toes into to like research. Public transport we already talked about is great. We haven't missed having a car or paying for gas, insurance, like etc. What did we say? Close proximity to
Just other countries around, like
being riding is so shitty.
Yeah, so basically being a very short flight or a train ride away from places like Italy, Spain, Portugal, Greece,
Yeah, I mean, like
Croatia.
Here from France, it was a 2.5 hour flight. We flew from here to London. It was a 2 hour flight. It was a
That was like a 40-minute flight.
Oh yeah,
from here to London.
sorry.
Yeah, that
Sorry.
was
It was
super
super
short.
fast. I think the flight from France was like 120 euro, if that. Maybe no, it was 50 euro per person.
But
'cause
that was on Ryanair, which was the unfortunate part of that situation.
if you're, I mean, listen, if you're on a budget and you want to send some prayers up,
It's awful.
it will
the
get
worst
the
airline
job
ever.
done, but it's rough.
It's rough.
But yeah, travel within the EU is so easy. You can take trains as well, so it's not like you just have to fly.
That's my favorite way to get around Europe is by train.
Yeah.
100%.
Also, the food is cheaper here for sure, whether you're eating out or whether you're buying groceries. I will say the portions of what you're buying in the grocery store are smaller than what you would buy in the US, so it makes sense that they're somewhat cheaper, but even the produce is cheaper. I feel like everything is probably around 2/3 of what it would cost in the US. Does that seem like an appropriate estimation?
Yeah, and in addition to that too, the everything is factored in, right?
Yeah.
Like so when you go to a restaurant,
Tax, tip, like,
all the tax tip, that's all factored in the price. So like they show you the receipt, that's like the final line.
mhm,
That's what you're paying. There's
mhm.
nothing like that you have to add on top of that.
No maths.
No maths. And I again the simplicity of that. I love that concept.
Yeah, that's been really
Makes it
nice. You
very
don't have to
easy.
think about it. And this is something we were talking about with a new friend of ours. And she was saying, like, just the simplicity of life. It's like little things like that that you don't even account. It's like, okay, so I have to do some math to come up with a tip. But it's like the less you have to think about day-to-day stuff, the more bandwidth you have to just live, you know. And I know that might sound silly and frivolous, but um I don't know, I really appreciate that work is done for you. Bike infrastructure we talked about last time, super great. I mean, again, it's probably the most efficient way to get around the city here. Education, you know, there's a like a Montessori school like right around the corner, and I know that I have friends who send their kids to Montessori schools in LA, and it's like somewhere between 1,300 to $2,000 a month, like per child, to send them there. And I am not exactly sure what the cost is here, but from what I've heard, it's significantly less to do something like that. And just the quality of the education, access to education overall. And we haven't even talked about like being able to go to college here and not leave with tens or hundreds of $1,000s in debt,
Crippling debt, yeah.
you know? So that's a huge plus. Aging in place. Something I have loved here is just seeing the range of ages of people just out living their life. It doesn't feel like just middle age and younger. You know, in the States, I feel like a lot of older people are relegated to nursing homes, or you only see them out with younger family members, or they don't look well. I'm not exaggerating when I say there are 80-year-olds on bikes who have more pep in their step than like 50, 60 something year olds in the States. And it's so inspiring to see.
Yeah, it's cool.
Or, you know, I see them in their apartment windows and they're 2 to 3 flights up. And again, we've told you guys, like, the flights are like this. Like, these people are climbing stairs in their 70s, 80s, and they look amazing.
Didn't one of our Dutch friends, or maybe I heard this today when I made some new friends today. And
Matt went on his first group
I
ride
think they
today.
were saying that these stairs they keep you young, the way that they're built, like because it's such a physical endeavor to get up and down them. And so people that are that age, they've been doing this their whole life on on these types of stairs,
Yeah.
and so they're so used to it, and it just helps keep them young. Also people are walking everywhere, so
Walking everywhere, they're on their bikes, you know, so your equilibrium is being exercised, if that's a thing, or you know, you're working on that sense of balance to be able to ride your bike. And then also mental acuity, it's like you have to be very aware. If you're going to be riding your bike, you're going to be walking here with these bikes everywhere, you have to be very aware. And so I think,
people crossing, there's tourists all over the place. So yeah, you got
yeah.
a lot of stimulus,
So I mean, I love the idea of just how integrated older people are in society here. It's been really awesome to see. It's multicultural. You know, you're seeing a lot of different people from different backgrounds, or different religious backgrounds, speaking different languages. So that's been really nice. And I think we both missed that living in Nashville. Nashville is a very multicultural city, but it's very segregated. And we really missed kind of everyone intersecting and living together. So that's been really cool to like be a part of as well. You're close to a major airport. You know, Schiphol is one of the big, like, I don't know if it's necessarily biggest, but it's one of the most like busiest, I think,
yeah, I mean, you
airports
can
in
get a
Europe.
direct flight to so many places in the world from Amsterdam, from Schiphol.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, this is a conversation. This is something we probably talk about once a day, is like access to family and friends. But it's like living in Nashville, they've only recently started doing direct flights to Connecticut, where my family is, and the schedules are so few and far between anyway. It's still like a 7 to 8 hour day to fly what should be a 2 hour flight from Nashville to Connecticut. and it's a 7 or 8 hour flight from here to New York. So it's basically the same distance. And so that makes me feel a little bit better knowing that I know we're over a body of water, and the time difference makes it feel further, but knowing that we're by a major airport is good.
Yeah.
Professional opportunities, I think Matt is very happy with his job setup and would like for things to remain that way. And, hopefully they will be able to. I am still trying to kind of navigate what my future is, if like in music, what I want that to look like, what's available to me as a songwriter, as a vocal coach, as a singer. But I think being in a major city, at least there's access to like other creative professionals versus living in some, like small Mediterranean town, like on the ocean somewhere. So I think we're too young to retire. And even though we would like some aspects of that kind of like ease in our life, but having access to potential professional opportunities is exciting. Housing costs here versus LA, it's not cheap. You're living in a major city, but it's still significantly more affordable than Los Angeles.
Yeah, although there is a housing shortage
Yeah.
here, which I mean we're still kind of like learning about, but um
And it seems like people have had varying experiences. Like,
yeah.
tell them about the
Yeah,
guy
I
I
had
met
met a guy
today.
today, an American who was able to get an apartment within 10 days of being relocated here with his company that he's with. And he had recommended to me, if we were to do something like this in the future, to use a broker. Just it's very similar to New York in that way. You get a real estate broker and they do all the hard work. They do all the heavy lifting. They find these places for you based off your stipulations that you give, and the trade-off is that you're ending up giving usually the equivalent of like 1 month's rent to pay them. And then I think it works similarly to New York in that you pay first and last month's rent to get in the
And
place,
maybe a deposit.
maybe a security deposit. But yeah, there's a lot of money up front that you'd have to fork up,
But
fork out.
to me, I think that service is valuable. We've heard of other situations where people, it takes them months to find a house because they're going and doing it themselves and have to stand in line to apply for a place, and then you're potentially overbidding on the asking price of the rental. Um, at this age, that seems so unappealing to like just be pounding the pavement, waiting in line. I was like, I don't have the energy for that, just straight up. So if you got the money to throw at it, let's see. This was Matt's longer days in the summer because he's dying right now. No opioid crisis, in turn resulting in less crime. And that's a huge plus for sure. Even just thinking about having kids here and how fentanyl sneaks into drugs that like teenagers are trying in high school, and it's like not having to worry about them experimenting with something and accidentally dying. Just having slightly more peace of mind with, if we ever do end up having children and having to worry about something like that. Um, this falls under healthcare, but access to reproductive care. Again, if you've listened to the podcast, you'll know that I've had a few miscarriages, and access to reproductive healthcare in the States is spotty at best right now. So, if that were to happen again, being able to not even have to think about it, just go to a doctor, get the care that I need, and have that be one less traumatic part of going through that would be amazing. Um, Becoming multilingual. Matt's not as stoked about this, but I've been doing my Duolingo. I'm on a 21-day streak.
Well, the idea of becoming multilingual is intriguing to me. I just have been struggling with the idea of taking up learning Dutch because Dutch is an incredibly difficult language, and I've already made so much progress in the years past with Spanish. I've talked about the practicality of learning certain languages. If you go around the world, the opportunities to speak Spanish are far more available than the opportunities to speak Dutch, unless you're traveling to places like Curacao, Aruba, or Suriname, or maybe Indonesia. But I don't know that I can think of many other places around the world where you'd be speaking Dutch. Um, and it's not knocking the language. It's just you know,
I get it, like relevancy.
yeah, and you want to, we're in an age now where we're the things that we're occupying our time with. We want to be efficient and like, you know what I mean?
I'm
I
trying
don't
to
know.
tell him that regardless of how useful it is, it's still a great exercise for your brain. So to learn a language, like especially I really love using Duolingo. I love like gamified apps for that kind of learning. I find it really fun. So I don't mind even if I don't end up retaining a lot of it. I think it's just good for getting your synapses firing, So maybe reframing it a little bit.
Can we move on to the next?
Okay. So efficiency. Dutchies are efficient. Like
Yeah.
shit runs on time.
Northern Europe in general, very efficient.
Love it. The Enneagram 8 in me, fellow 8s will understand. The efficiency just, it really makes me super happy.
Same.
Simpler way of living. Again, stuff just feels streamlined. Even, you were mentioning this aesthetically, you don't see a lot of clutter. As you can see, like these bookshelves are like half empty back here. If this were the States, there would be like a random wood ball faux necklace falling out of like a wooden bowl with like some marble thing next to it, just taking up space for like a perfectly curated shelf. And here people are like, if it's not useful or it doesn't mean something, we just don't have the space. So let's keep it
It's
tight.
like the Scandinavian minimalism
Yeah.
like way of life. I think that's they're kind of in line with that.
Yeah. So that's
Even design too. As all the modern
Mhm.
design here is very
Very
Scandinavian.
clean
Yeah.
lines. And I think that's been a good kind of reset for us to remind us like what we need, what we don't need. We don't need to be going on Amazon and being like, oh, I need that random ass thing in my life, or I need that thing that will make it easier. And then you just end up with all this clutter and all of this like waste. So that's been a really good reminder that there are other ways to live. And then last one, no evangelical Christianity. No offense. I just have church trauma. So that's my truth. I know there are some like wonderful evangelical Christians out there. I have some friends who are still practicing. I'm not talking about y'all, but just the fact that like there are not billboards down here talking about like life starts at conception or you're going to hell, like straight up you're going to hell. Like there are billboards like that just randomly on the side of the road in the South, just being shoved in your face constantly. And just to be able billboards in general, by the way, like have you even seen any?
I don't think so actually.
No. So you can just look.
Not like off the major roadways or
No,
like
like you can just
riding the
look
train or
at the landscape and you're not bombarded by advertisements constantly taking up space in your brain. So that's been great too.
what's also
Um
great is refilling my glass of wine.
get it. We're gonna hit the cons list, and cons is only half as long, and you knew that. You knew it would only be half as long. All right. Refilled, ready to hit cons. So we talk about this, I say every episode. This is our third one, but far from friends and family. That's for sure the toughest.
Yeah, I mean, and when we say friends too, it's like, we have so many. We're like so lucky to have so many different friends all over the U.S.
Who are like family to us.
Yeah, and but some of these friendships go back a really long time, and it's just something that you can't necessarily recreate. So yeah, I definitely that I think we're both really missing our friends and of course our family.
I was talking to my parents about this yesterday. It's so hard to try to weigh, personally for me, the peace that I have here, the ease of life that I value here against missing people that mean so much to me. It feels like an impossible choice. And maybe some people will be like, you're an asshole, you choose people. Um, but like choosing your people if your mental health is not well because of your surroundings, like what good are you to those people? What good are you experiencing in those lived experiences with those people if you can't show up the way you want to show up? So that's kind of how I've been thinking about it. But that has been really shitty to be far from them. Cons. Smoking.
So much.
Why is everyone smoking?
So much smoking here. Like, and I think a lot of people associate Amsterdam in particular with marijuana. And yeah, sure, like I feel like maybe 1 out of 10 people I see smoking are actually smoking,
Yeah,
blunts or something like that. But like
it's not
most
that much.
people are smoking cigarettes and it drives me insane. It is just so dated. I absolutely hate cigarette smoke. I will always hate cigarette smoke. I feel like it just clings to you, and you'll walk through their cloud of smoke and you'll smell like smoke for the next like 10 minutes, and it's just so invasive. It really bothers me. And so I'm always trying to find a way to, if we're waiting for the train or something like that and someone comes up and just starts
Like he
dragging.
will straight up go stand in the rain
Yeah, for real.
if there's someone smoking next to him in a covered,
I hate it. I
tram
hate it.
stop or something.
Big major con for sure.
This was Matt's weather.
Weather is awful. This time of year, weather is awful. It's if you are anything like me, being highly affected by the lack of sun, having seasonal affect disorder, this is not the place for you in the wintertime. I'm sure I've heard it's lovely in the summer. You get these long days, but this time of year, the nights are much longer. The sun doesn't come up here until like almost 9 in the morning, and apparently in like December, early January, it gets closer to 10 in the morning where like you start to see the sunrise, if you do see the sun rise, because it's foggy or cloudy or whatever out. That is a huge buzzkill. It also just makes things more complicated because whenever you need to go out, you got to bring your umbrella, you got to wear your rain jacket, you got to wear
You have more gear for
more
sure.
gear, and you got to get all suited up. And I hate that. I really hate that aspect. It's the same reason why I've always just not been a big fan of winter, because in summertime when you're warm, it's like very minimal. You got shorts and a t-shirt on and you're good. Flip
You got to
flops.
think about how you can style it, show your personality
I don't want to spend
in your
20
rain
minutes
weather.
getting ready to go outside
I
for
love a
five
layered
minutes.
moment.
It's stupid.
We'll
Okay.
get you there.
No, we won't.
Um,
Nope.
diversity and food scene. I mean, listen, America has food on lock, hands down. Like, I think you mentioned this maybe in one of the previous episodes. The food in Europe is amazing, but it's very hyper regionalized. And so it's like you're going to get Italian food in Italy, you're going to get Portuguese food in Portugal, you're going to get Spanish food in Spain. But the kind of fusion, the kind of experimentation, the quality of the kind of restaurants and like on the cutting edge type of food that you find in the States, I have found pretty unmatched in
And
other
that's not to say
places.
that doesn't exist here, because it certainly does. In fact, the best restaurant in the world for a long time,
Sure.
was a few years in a row, was in
Yeah.
Copenhagen. So there are places here that are sourcing all of their food from local farms and doing like really interesting things. But I think in the States, you just have, because there's more people,
Yeah.
and you just have a lot more going on. There's chefs doing all these incredible, wonderful things in smaller towns. They just have more access to it. And especially coming from a city like, not like Nashville or Los Angeles or even New York, it's just everywhere.
Yeah. And I
You
think
have so many options.
it was so exciting too living in Nashville. When we first moved there, it was mostly barbecue. And at first you're like, oh, this is great. But then it very quickly became pretty old that you really didn't have a ton of options. Sean Brock was the only James Beard chef, I think, that had a restaurant at the time. And then things started opening up like Henrietta Red and uh, you know, so I mean that's the restaurant we always go to because that's like our favorite spot. But all of these other varieties of places started opening up, and so to be a part of this burgeoning food scene and all these chefs moving from all these really exciting cities in the US, and we got to be a part of just experiencing what they were bringing to the table, if you will, was really awesome. So it's hard to leave something like that behind because food for us is a hobby.
Yeah, it's like
And
a big
again,
part of
like
our daily life. Like
a very lucky place to be in that
yeah.
we can say that. But yeah, it is a huge part of our
Mm-hmm.
kind of extracurricular activity. Um, Stairs.
Stairs are
Y'all
awful.
listen to the last episode. I mean, just with Tux alone, it's a pain in the ass. Um, Lack of green space has been tough.
Lack of green space in the cities is tough.
Yeah.
Because the second you get out of the cities, there's nothing but green space. It's just farms everywhere, as I've seen, and I love that. It's like you just see all these little uh farm animals all over the place, just munching on the most delicious looking green, lush, the greenest grass you've ever seen. It's
Lots of
so
chunky sheep.
lots of chunky sheep.
Sheep. That's the southern in me. Kroger's sheeps.
But yeah, within, I would say within the city, I was kind of surprised, when we got to Amsterdam, and we've walked around quite a bit, and we're constantly comparing it to New York because there are so many
So many.
similarities, and it makes sense because New York used to be New Amsterdam, before it was sold to the British or whatever. But in New York, at least, even the most random blocks, you will find tiny little triangles and squares of just like a little mini park. Now I'm not even talking like the big parks like Prospect and Central Park.
We've talked about if we were to move here, trying to find a place to live that had a like some kind of small yard or something would be pretty important. But I don't know how accessible that is, or what area to look in particular. Again, if you're more familiar, please let us know in the comments or DM us if you have neighborhood suggestions for places that offer something like that, because that would definitely be something we would be looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Climate change.
This is a big one actually, because it's something I think we talk about a lot, but then we forget about about it, until some major storm happens and then something gets flooded or whatever. But like places like Miami, Amsterdam, New York, these are all like, as the weather just continues to do, like as climate change continues to do its thing, these are cities that would be first affected 100%.
Yeah, I mean,
So
there's canals everywhere. You are like pretty much at sea level. But isn't it the flattest place
I
in
think it's the
Europe?
flattest country in the world.
So there's that.
So there are places that are below sea level within, like as you're moving around the country, as I've seen in my like little workout apps. I don't think I've been any higher than 100 feet since we've been here.
Yeah.
Most of the deviations around 20 to 30 feet plus or minus.
That isn't great.
Yeah. So.
Closer to world conflicts, in the
Russia,
States.
Ukraine, Israel, Gaza.
Yeah, I mean, in the States, you've got an ocean separating you from a lot of stuff happening in other parts of the world. That's something, to get your very quick flight away from those places. So that's something to think about, like fallout from things like that. It's a difficult language, especially if you have already learned a romance language and you have that method of learning in your head, or you're more familiar with, how that sounds, how that feels when you're speaking that. This will feel very, is it Germanic?
Yeah, I mean, it's like all the, was it not the Anglo-Saxons, like all the Germanic tribes.
Drop the history on us.
From
Drop the history.
Hundreds of years ago. Yeah, when they like split off and then all these different dialects formed. And I imagine that Dutch is just really, along with German and
but don't tell
Danish.
Dutch people that.
Yeah, right.
They get upset when you tell them it's similar to German.
But
because Matt speaks some German and he's found similar words and they get
I found a lot of similar words actually. Yeah, but yeah, apparently, I mean, I get it. I totally get it.
Dutch is its own thing. It's very unique. But yeah, no, it's definitely it's difficult. I find it difficult, but also I have a great episode with Joe Franco on learning languages. So that's the most recent episode I have out. Go listen to that if you are somebody who's trying to become a polyglot. Moving startup costs, we did some math. Roughly, it would cost us about $10K to get back over here, between what we're hopeful we would be spending in terms of rent initially, flights, just everything associated with that.
The lawyer fees for getting.
Lawyer fees for visa, all that stuff. No professional contacts. It feels a little daunting to move to a place where I know 2 people professionally. That being said, I moved to Nashville and only knew two people and I've had a beautiful career there. But I was also 10 years younger and had more hustle in me than I do now, if we're being honest. So I don't know what that's gonna look like. Yeah. I guess that really affects me more than it does
Hmm.
you. Uh and then on that tip, like ceiling to growth, is there, in the States, it's seemingly endless. You can work, you can just keep going higher and higher and higher. There's no end to the creative opportunities that you have access to. This is a much smaller country. I have no idea what that ceiling is, assuming I were to even reach it. Do you have any other ones that you've thought of? But so far, that's the end of our cons list. But
Oh, this is like very mundane, but something we just found out right before we started recording this.
yeah,
European tech,
like appliances.
yeah. So it's something that I didn't really give much thought to, but we have a washer and dryer in this place, and the dryer, there's this, it like collects this water. There's like this whole tray. It collects water from the clothes. It like extracts the water as it dries clothes, which is amazing. But I've never seen a dryer do something
And
like that
all
before.
day, we've done like 3 loads of laundry today, and it's been turning off like a few minutes in, and we're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And we see this icon with water coming out of a container, and we're like, why would there be a water icon on a dryer? And then Matt was like, what does this do? And pulls it out, and it's
Yeah.
just full of water.
Full of water, completely all the way full. Yeah, it's just a little lesson in that you think you know how things operate, and then you get over here, and there's just very subtle differences. I think you just have to be prepared to like learn those subtle differences. But I'm sure now, once we've experienced this, I'm sure most of the dryers operate exactly like this
And
one.
also too, like all of the language, everything on the machine is in Dutch. So I'm Google translating
Google
what's
Translate.
on the
Yeah.
machine. I'm looking up YouTube videos for like what compartments to put things in. So I don't break our host, appliances.
That is like mentally a little taxing. I would say that that's another con, is just that when you don't understand the language, there's a little bit more work that you got to put into trying to decipher what's being said, and you feel a little bit more drained, I think, at the end of the day, if
Yeah.
you've done a lot of that.
But the upside of that is you're immersed, and
Yeah.
so you're learning it more quickly because you have to. So, and because you have to, you learn it more quickly. So there's an upside to that too. But yeah, it can feel more exhausting for
Mhm.
sure. So yeah, if you are still with us at this point, I don't know. I hope that if you're somebody who is considering moving here, maybe you found this helpful. Thanks for listening to us kind of like live journal entry this. And anything else you want to add?
Mm-mm.
All right. See you guys next time.